Manchester. A city of lights, music, and late-night chaos. Students pouring out of bars, laughter echoing through the streets, taxis honking, neon signs glowing, but hidden in that energy, a predator watched. Not with a knife, not with a gun, but with something far more insidious. His name was Reynhard Sinaga. For years, he stalked the streets outside nightclubs, offering a friendly smile, a helping hand, a safe place to rest. What no one knew was that behind his apartment door, he was building the darkest secret collection Britain had ever uncovered. Born in Jambi, Indonesia, in 1983, Reynhard Sinaga grew up in a conservative Catholic family. His father was wealthy, a respected businessman. His upbringing was strict, but Sinaga was considered intelligent, charming, ambitious. In 2007, he left Indonesia for the UK, pursuing higher education. Leeds first, then Manchester, where he claimed he was working on a PhD in sociology. He was openly gay, flamboyant, and social, qualities that helped him fit seamlessly into Manchester's vibrant nightlife. To friends, he was harmless. The kind of person who smiled too much, dressed fashionably, and always seemed eager for company. But beneath the surface, his studies and his life hid a disturbing obsession. A fantasy that would soon turn into reality. Manchester in the 2010s was a city alive after dark. Thousands of students filled Deansgate, Canal Street, and the bustling clubs, but with the nightlife came vulnerability. Drunk students stumbled home. Friends became separated. Some found themselves stranded. Sinaga saw opportunity. His apartment was ideally placed, just across the street from Factory, one of the city's most popular clubs. He would wait. Sometimes outside, sometimes scrolling on his phone until the right moment came. A drunk young man. Alone. Vulnerable. Lost, Sinaga would approach with warmth. Do you need a place to crash? You can charge your phone at mine, a savior on the surface. A predator in reality. Sinaga would offer drinks innocent enough, but laced within was a sedative. Police believe it was GHB, the so-called date rape drug, though its traces vanish quickly in the body. Within minutes, his victims collapsed into unconsciousness. The apartment transformed into a crime scene. Sinaga meticulously set up his phone. He filmed everything. Dozens, then hundreds of videos. He whispered to his unconscious victims, staged them in disturbing ways, and recorded hours of footage. But why? For Sinaga, these were trophies. Proof of his power. A private collection of domination. He catalogued each video, even saving victims' personal details. His crimes were not random. They were systematic. For years, Sinaga seemed untouchable. No victim remembered. No evidence surfaced, but in June 2017, fate intervened. One young man woke up mid-assault. Disoriented, terrified, he realized what was happening. He fought back. He beat Sinaga unconscious. Then he fled, running straight to the police. When officers entered Sinaga's flat, they expected a minor assault case. What they found was a digital nightmare, hard drives filled with video. More than 3 terabytes of footage. Over 200 victims documented. One by one, detectives watched the tapes. Each file revealed another young man, unconscious, violated, unaware. The scale of horror was unprecedented in British criminal history. Detectives described the apartment as a digital dungeon. Hard drives, phones, notebooks. Sinaga kept meticulous records. Each victim was labeled. Some with names, others with chilling nicknames. The videos were worse than anyone imagined. Hours of unconscious men. Some barely able to stand before collapsing. Others carried into his bedroom. The sheer scale stunned investigators. This wasn't 1 or 2 assaults. It was hundreds. A hidden world of cruelty stretching over years. One officer later confessed, "I've never seen anything like it." It was a factory of abuse, hidden in plain sight. Manchester police realized they were no longer dealing with just a student. They were dealing with Britain's most prolific rapist. But how do you prosecute crimes that victims don't even remember? The challenge was enormous. Without memory, without physical evidence, the videos became the cornerstone of the case. Officers began the painstaking work of identifying men from the footage. They tracked tattoos, clothing, student IDs, even friends who recognized them. Many victims had no idea. Imagine opening your door and finding police showing you a video of yourself unconscious, violated, shock, denial, rage, tears. Some couldn't bear to watch. Others demanded to see everything, desperate to understand what had been stolen from them. Slowly, the case grew. Dozens of charges. Then hundreds. Until the scale was undeniable: 159 counts of sexual assault, 136 rapes, and more. Sinaga's trial would become one of the largest sexual assault prosecutions in British history. In 2018, the first trial began. Jurors were warned. The evidence was disturbing. Still, nothing prepared them for the reality. They saw the videos. They heard Sinaga's whispered taunts, his casual cruelty. Some jurors wept. Others turned away. Judges paused the sessions to let people breathe. The defense claimed the encounters were consensual roleplay, that the victims pretended to be unconscious, but the footage told a different story. Victims were limp, lifeless, unresponsive. Prosecutors described Sinaga as a man who'd derived sexual gratification from complete control, and through 4 separate trials, more charges emerged. Each trial more damning than the last. By the end, the court heard about 48 confirmed victims, but detectives believed the true number was over 200. In January 2020, Judge Suzanne Goddard delivered the final blow. Reynhard Sinaga was sentenced to life in prison, with a minimum term of 30 years. She called him an evil sexual predator who has preyed upon young men. The judge emphasized his complete lack of remorse, his arrogance, his chilling ability to smile even as evidence was shown in court. For survivors, the sentence was justice, but incomplete. Some wanted him never to breathe free air again. Others struggled with anger that he had stolen years of their lives, but one thing was certain: Sinaga would never hunt again. For the survivors, the horror was twofold. First, the violation itself. Their trust, their dignity, their autonomy stolen. Second, the realization that they hadn't even known. Imagine waking up years later to discover you had been a victim. That private videos of your unconscious body existed. That your worst nightmare had already happened without your memory. Many victims reported depression, anxiety, and trust issues. Relationships crumbled. Friendships strained. Some turned to alcohol, unable to numb the betrayal. Others shut down, isolating themselves from the world, but some found strength, choosing to testify, to speak out, to reclaim their voice. One victim said, "He didn't just steal a night. He stole a part of who I am. But he doesn't get to keep it forever." Manchester, a city of resilience, was shaken. Clubs increased safety measures. Conversations about consent, drugs, and vulnerability flooded the news. Parents warned children. Friends swore to never leave each other alone after nights out. The LGBT community, once proud of Sinaga's openness, recoiled in horror. His crimes had nothing to do with sexuality. They said this was about predation, cruelty, and power. Newspapers called him the Manchester Monster. Headlines screamed of his record-breaking crimes. The question haunted everyone: how could this happen for so long, without anyone knowing? Reynhard Sinaga arrived in Manchester in 2007, presenting himself as an ambitious student chasing intellectual dreams. Outwardly, he was charming, sociable, and seemingly harmless. He lived in a modest flat in the bustling city center, close to nightclubs, pubs, and student housing. For friends and acquaintances, he was just another foreign student adjusting to life in England. But behind this facade, a darker truth unfolded. Sinaga's apartment was carefully designed for his hidden purpose. The living room was furnished simply, but his bedroom was arranged with sinister precision. A collection of drinks, often spiked with sedatives, waited on shelves. His phone was charged and ready, with its memory prepared to capture hours of disturbing footage. Sinaga's method was calculated. He would linger outside clubs, waiting for intoxicated young men who were separated from their friends. His approach was disarmingly friendly. He offered a place to rest, a warm drink, or even just a couch for the night. Many victims, in their vulnerable state, trusted him. What awaited inside the flat was something no one could have predicted. The drugged men would lose consciousness, and Sinaga would record their assault in chilling detail. He meticulously stored hundreds of videos, numbering over 1,000 hours of evidence, portraying at least 136 victims. He cataloged them like trophies, often revisiting the footage. For years, his crimes went unnoticed. Victims awoke in confusion, assuming they had blacked out from alcohol. Few suspected they had been violated. Sinaga relied on this silence, confident in his ability to remain hidden, but in 2017, his carefully constructed world began to unravel. A man he attempted to assault regained partial consciousness during the attack. Disoriented but aware of something terribly wrong, the man fought back. In the struggle, he injured Sinaga severely enough that police became involved. When officers arrived, they searched Sinaga's phone, and what they uncovered was beyond comprehension. Hundreds of videos, carefully organized, revealed the scale of his crimes. Investigators described the discovery as one of the most disturbing archives of sexual violence ever encountered in Britain. The subsequent investigation was exhaustive. Police combed through hours of footage, identifying victims, some of whom had no memory of the assault. Shockwaves spread as authorities realized the sheer magnitude of the crimes. The courtroom became the stage for one of the most harrowing trials in modern British legal history. Prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence, video after video that confirmed the testimonies of victims. Survivors described the confusion and horror they felt when told the truth. Many had believed they had simply overindulged in alcohol. To learn they had been drugged in film shattered their sense of reality. The trial revealed not only Sinaga's actions but his disturbing psychology. He seemed to revel in the deception, referring to his assaults as if they were consensual encounters. He showed no remorse, no recognition of the suffering he had caused. In January 2020, he was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 30 years. The judge labeled him an evil sexual predator who has preyed on young men. Forensic experts called him the most prolific rapist in British legal history. The case shook Manchester to its core. The city, often associated with its lively student life and vibrant nightlife, was forced to confront the presence of a predator hiding in plain sight. For victims, the psychological scars ran deep. Survivors reported trust issues, anxiety, depression, and struggles with identity. Some could not reconcile the lost memories with the disturbing truth revealed in court. For the community, the sense of safety in nightlife culture was shattered. Parents, students, and young men across the UK became more cautious, questioning who they could trust. For society, Sinaga's crimes sparked national discussions about consent, the use of date rape drugs, and the vulnerability of men who are often less likely to report sexual assault due to stigma. The case became a grim reminder that predators do not always match the stereotypes society expects. Though shocking, Sinaga's crimes echoed other large-scale predatory cases. John Warboys, UK, 2000s. The Black Cab Rapist, a London taxi driver who drugged and assaulted female passengers. Bill Cosby, USA, spanning decades. A high-profile entertainer accused of drugging and assaulting dozens of women. Daniel Holtzclaw, USA, 2010s. A police officer convicted of sexually assaulting multiple women during traffic stops. Each case highlighted systemic blind spots that predators exploited. Whether trust in a driver, the charm of a celebrity, or the authority of law enforcement. The verdict did not close the book on the Reynhard Sinaga case, it merely opened another chapter. For the men who survived, life was divided into two eras, before the revelation and after it. Many had gone years believing their nights in Manchester ended in nothing more than drunken blackouts. To discover, through police visits or trial evidence, that they had been filmed and violated while unconscious was like stepping into a nightmare they could never fully wake from. Psychologists described the impact as identity fracturing. Survivors struggled with questions of self, dignity, and trust. Some wondered, if I can't even remember what happened to me, how much of myself do I truly own? Anxiety became a constant companion. Crowded clubs and dimly lit bars, once symbols of youth and freedom, now triggered dread. Sleep was often fractured by nightmares. Relationships suffered, intimacy felt dangerous, sometimes impossible. What made the trauma uniquely cruel was its invisibility. There were no bruises, no immediate memories of violence. Instead, victims lived with the haunting knowledge of lost control, replaying footage they had never chosen to star in. Manchester itself was shaken. Parents of students questioned whether their children were safe in the city. Nightlife, once synonymous with joy, was tainted with suspicion. Every kind stranger offering a helping hand could now be imagined as a predator. For LGBTQ communities, the case carried a dual sting. While some recognized Sinaga as an outlier, others feared his crimes would deepen stigma and prejudice. Activists had to fight to separate his monstrous acts from broader cultural perceptions. In the press, headlines blared about the most prolific rapist in British history. Residents read in horror, grappling with the idea that such evil had hidden behind the face of a soft-spoken student. The illusion of safety, that evil was always visible, always obvious, was shattered. Sinaga's reign of terror thrived in silence. That silence was not accidental, it was built on cultural assumptions. Alcohol as a cover, victims assumed their memory gaps were the result of drinking too much. In a culture where heavy drinking is normalized, blackouts were dismissed, not questioned, male vulnerability overlooked. Society often treats men as invulnerable to sexual assault. Many victims never considered themselves at risk. This stigma silenced them further. Predator's mask. Sinaga weaponized trust. He didn't look dangerous. He didn't act violent. He offered kindness at the precise moment victims needed it most. Sociologists later argued that the case revealed a collective blind spot, the refusal to believe men could be prey, and that danger often wears the mask of safety. The Sinaga case forced the UK into uncomfortable conversations about consent, vulnerability, and masculinity. Universities began introducing stricter awareness programs around sexual assault. Police expanded training to recognize signs of drug-facilitated crime. Support groups for male survivors of sexual assault grew in prominence, challenging the stigma that silenced so many. But the scars remained. For survivors, healing would take years, perhaps decades. For Manchester, the case became a ghost in the city's history, a reminder that darkness can thrive even in the brightest, most crowded streets. While Reynhard Sinaga's scale was extraordinary, his method bore chilling similarities to predators worldwide. Stephen Port, UK, 2010's The Grinder Killer, who drugged and murdered 4 men after luring them to his flat. Andrew Luster, USA, 2000's heir to a cosmetics fortune, convicted of drugging and assaulting women on film. Mark Dutroux, Belgium, 1990's a serial predator whose hidden crimes exposed systemic police failures. Each case shared a grim theme: predators thrive in the gaps of society, in blind trust, in silence, in stigma. The story of Reynhard Sinaga is not just a tale of one man's depravity, it is a study of vulnerability, silence, and the human capacity for denial. His crimes remind us that evil rarely announces itself with a scream, it whispers, waits, and hides in plain sight. The true horror lies not only in what he did, but in how long he did it without detection. The faces of his victims, often blurred in media reports, represent thousands of silent survivors worldwide, of people who may never step forward, but who live daily with the shadow of exploitation. And so, the Sinaga case stands as both a warning and a demand: to listen, to believe, and to never underestimate the darkness that can lurk behind an ordinary smile.